Good evening and welcome to the January 13th, 2025 special hearing of the Immigrant Rights Commission. I would like to take a quick moment to welcome you all here this evening, to wish you all a very happy new year. I would like to welcome our colleagues who are sitting in the overflow room and to thank all of you here present for your attendance this evening. We look forward to hearing from a lot of you. We look forward to hearing from our speakers. And we look forward to a good sharing of information, collaboration and plans for the future. This meeting is called to order. We, the San Francisco Immigrant Rights Commission, acknowledge that we are on the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone, who are the original inhabitants of the San Francisco Peninsula. As the Indigenous stewards of this land, and in accordance with their traditions, the Ramaytush Ohlone have never ceded, lost, nor forgotten their responsibilities as the caretakers of this place, as well as for all peoples who reside in their traditional territory. As guests, we recognise that we benefit from living and working on their traditional homeland. We wish to pay our respects by acknowledging the ancestors, elders, and relatives of the Ramaytush community and by affirming their sovereign rights as First Peoples. I would like to ask the clerk to please call the roll for this evening's meeting.
Thank you. Chair Connelly?
Here.
Vice Chair Chowdhury?
Here.
Commissioner Abdu is not yet here. Commissioner Insani is excused. Commissioner Farah?
Here.
Commissioner Gaim is not yet here. Commissioner Ung is excused. Commissioner Obregon? Commissioner Pass?
Here.
Commissioner Ratanapakdi?
Here.
Commissioner Ruiz?
Here.
Commissioner Senghor?
Here.
Commissioner Sousa?
Here.
And Commissioner Wang? Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Clerk Shore. Before we begin, we have a couple of announcements from OSEA Director Jorge Rivas about how to access interpretation and how to make public comment. Director Rivas.
Thank you, Chair. Tonight's meeting is being interpreted in Spanish, Cantonese, Filipino, and Arabic, along with Mongolian. If you'd like to listen to this meeting in Spanish, Cantonese, Filipino, Arabic, or Mongolian, headsets are available through the interpretation coordinator, which you all saw outside. We will now ask the interpreters to please come up to the microphone at the podium to make the announcement in each language. Tonight's meeting is being interpreted in the language. If you would like to listen to this meeting in that language, headsets are available for interpretation outside.
La reunión de esta noche está siendo interpretada al español. Si les gustaría escuchar esta reunión en español, por favor visiten la mesa del coordinador afuera para recibir dispositivos.
大家好，今晚嘅會議將會用廣東話傳譯服務。如果你希望以廣東話收聽會議，請向我哋外面嘅工作人員領取耳機。唔該。
Өнөөдөр хурал Монгол хэл дээр орчуулгаж байгаа. Хэрвээ та энэ хурлыг монголоор сонсох хүсвэл орчуулгын зохицуулагчаас чихэлж авахыг хүсэж байна.
Magandang gabi po. Ang pagpulong sa gabing ito ay isasalin wika sa Pilipino. Kung nais po ninyong pakinggan ang pagpulong sa Pilipino, may mga headset po na maaaring hiramin mula sa aming interpretation coordinator. Salamat po.
مساء الخير. سيتم ترجمة اجتماع هذه الليلة باللغة العربية. إذا كنت بترغب بالاستماع إلى الكلمات باللغة العربية فستتوفر سماعات الرأس من خارج القاعة.
Thank you to our interpreters. Once again, if you're looking for space, we do have an overflow room, room 400. We ask that you please make space for those who require interpretation to stay in this room. If you speak English, please make space and go to room 400. A few reminders for today's meeting. Please silence all cell phones and devices so that speakers and commissioners can be heard. To all our speakers, and Commissioners, we would like to remind you to please speak slowly for interpreters. If you're running out of time, please try to be concise. Members of the public who wish to make public comments should line up by the podium when public comment is called. If you wish to make a comment in a language other than English, please let us know so you can be joined by an interpreter. Speakers using interpretation assistance will be allowed twice the amount of time. In addition, all participants and attendees are expected to behave responsibly and respectfully. As a reminder to all, this is a public meeting and it is being recorded. A reminder to please speak into the microphone so you can be heard clearly. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you, Director Rivas. For members of the public, we will have an opportunity for you to give public comment on immigrant community planning for the new federal administration later this evening, after the invited speakers as part of agenda item number 4. But for now, we would like to open it up for general public comment. This is to allow members of the public to address the Commission on matters that do not appear on tonight's agenda, but fall under the purview of the Commission. Public comment is limited to 2 minutes per speaker or 4 minutes with an interpreter. And I really do ask all here present to comply with the time limit. You will hear a bell when you hit 2 minutes. There is a timer on the podium. Please keep an eye on it. And when the bell comes, if you are not finished speaking, please wrap up your final remark. If you wish to make a comment, please line up at the podium now. And this is public comment on items that do not appear on tonight's agenda. Do we have any members of the public who wish to make general public comment? Seeing none, public comment, general public comment is now closed. So on behalf of my fellow commissioners, I would like to welcome you all to the San Francisco Immigrant Rights Commission special hearing to support our immigrant community planning for possible policy changes by the new federal administration. The purpose of today's hearing is to focus on the incoming federal administration's plan for immigration policy, how this will impact San Francisco, and what actions the city and community are taking to prepare. Following the hearing, the Commission will take all of the recommendations and suggestions that we have heard here tonight and will develop recommendations and other follow-up actions from this hearing. I would like to thank Vice Chair Chowdhury for her leadership in organising this hearing with OSEA staff, Director Jorge Rivas and Clerk Elena Shore. I would also like to thank OSEA's Language Access team for providing interpretation tonight. And I would like to thank all of the city departments, community organisations and partners for your work on this important issue and for sharing your expertise with us tonight. Vice Chair Chowdhury, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Chair Connelly. The goal of this hearing is to build power and not panic. We will focus on what resources are available to community members and what actions individuals and families can take. The hearing is divided into 4 parts. First, we will hear a policy overview of possible immigration policy changes by the incoming federal administration. Second, we will hear from city agencies about what the city has done to prepare. Third, we will hear from community organizations about how they have prepared and what resources are available for community members. Fourth, we will open it up to public comment to hear from the members of the public who are here tonight. Thank you all for joining us for this special hearing.
Thank you, Vice Chair. And now I would like to announce that we are to be joined by some supervisors this evening, not yet here, okay? We will have some supervisors or representatives from their offices joining us as the evening proceeds, and we will invite them to the podium to provide any brief remarks. So I would like to begin by introducing our invited speakers. We will first hear a policy overview from the Immigrant Legal Resource Centre, ILRC, and the California Immigrant Policy Centre, CIPC. And after that, we are asking speakers to be brief. You will have 3 to 4 minutes so that we have time for everyone. We are asking speakers to discuss what they have done to plan for the incoming federal administration, what they want the public to know, any lessons learned from the previous administration, and how the IRC can support this work. I would like to remind you to please speak slowly for the interpreters, and if you are running out of time, try to be concise. Commissioners, you will have an opportunity to ask questions at the end after we hear from all speakers, and I will be asking you to keep your questions brief, and I'm asking you to please refrain from making comments for the purpose of timeliness. And so I would like to begin by inviting Lena Graber, Senior Staff Attorney from the Immigrant Legal Resource Centre. Welcome, Lena.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can speak right into the mic. Okay. Good evening. My name is Lena Graber, and I'm an attorney from the Immigrant Legal Resource Center, here to speak to you tonight about the incoming Trump administration and what that means for immigration policy. Broadly, it means that immigrants across the country will be under attack from our own federal government. The Trump campaign has always blamed immigrants for any and every problem they identify in this country, and has consistently promised to arrest and deport people en masse. That is what they plan to do. They intend to dramatically increase arrests and deportations, expand immigrant detention, and use their executive power to take away status from people who have DACA, temporary protected status, parole, and deferred action. Their goal is to maintain political power by scapegoating immigrants and to make our country so hostile to immigrant families that people will leave even if they have not been directly targeted themselves. San Francisco has no obligation to and should not help or facilitate this persecution. But the reality is that the federal government has enormous legal authority over immigration, including the power to target immigrants in this city, regardless of the city's stance. You may remember in the first week that Trump took power in 2017, he issued executive orders to strip federal funding from sanctuary cities, ban travelers and immigrants from several Muslim countries, encourage federal immigration enforcement agents to arrest and deport anyone they could, and of course, dedicate new resources to build a wall, more of a wall on the border with Mexico. He went on to tear children and infants away from their parents at the border with no plan or even intention to reunite them, destroy access to asylum for people fleeing persecution, interrupt legal proceedings around the country by arresting immigrants attending local courts, expand the number of immigrants in detention to the largest numbers in history, even as we face the global pandemic, and attempt to end DACA and TPS protections for millions of people. The list of disastrous and racist immigration policies from his first term goes on, and many of the more technical regulatory and policy changes from that term remain in operation at this time. But this round, it is clear that they intend to do even more. The Trump administration will pursue many fronts in its persecution of immigrants around the country. There is the rhetorical front, demonizing and criminalizing immigrants in constant announcements and stump speeches and press conferences. Once again, they intend to employ spectacles of cruelty, like the family separation policy, to terrify people, with highly televised raids in our communities and increased use of militarized force. Tactically, they already have enormous capacity to arrest, detain, and deport people, and they seek to increase that capacity. We need to be prepared to see more immigration raids and arrests, expanded detention and checkpoints. We may once again have ICE agents arresting people in our own courthouses and using their power to deport people without a hearing under an expanded expedited removal policy. San Francisco as a city may be targeted with lawsuits against its sanctuary policies or threats to withdraw federal funding because of those policies. Make no mistake, the government will violate the law and the Constitution in their pursuit of mass deportations. We have already seen wanton racial profiling in Kern County just last week, with Border Patrol stopping and arresting people based more or less purely on their appearance. That is how this administration is going to act, but it doesn't reflect the laws of this country. The Fourth Amendment protects us all from unreasonable searches and seizures by law enforcement, and we must hold federal agents accountable for trampling on the Constitution. At the same time, it is essential that San Franciscans understand the nature of the immigration enforcement machine. Over the last decade, approximately 3/4 of people arrested by ICE within the country have been handed to them directly by some other law enforcement agency, mostly local sheriffs. Whether Trump calls in the National Guard or invokes the Alien Enemies Act or any of the other horrific measures that his campaign has touted, the majority of people shunted into the deportation system will continue to be sent there from state and local law enforcement. That is the engine of the system that DHS has built over the last 2 decades and on which the Trump campaign's goals rest. Without the resources of state and local law enforcement agencies, they will not be able to harm as many people. So what can San Francisco do? I think both symbolic and tactical responses are important. Symbolically, San Francisco must continue to speak out in defense of immigrants, stand strong on our sanctuary policies, and defy the criminalizing narratives that the government uses to try to justify its white supremacist agenda. In particular, San Francisco must reject the scapegoating of immigrants for the fentanyl crisis that is impacting cities across the US and focus on evidence-based public health solutions. And further, the city should go on the offensive to sue the Trump administration for its legal overreaches. Tactically, there are many things the city should do to mitigate the incredible harms of mass deportation policy. First, especially for local law enforcement and the district attorney, don't collaborate with federal immigration authorities. Don't hand immigrants over to ICE and don't refer them to Trump's DOJ for prosecution. Terminate any contracts with ICE or the US Marshals to hold people in city facilities. Restrict federal access to city records and databases, and refuse ICE subpoenas and contest them in court. More broadly, the city must prevent vigilante action against immigrant communities and ensure that landlords and employers are not reporting people to federal immigration authorities. And finally, the city must support rapid response work and social and legal aid to the families and communities that are facing these devastating attacks. I'm sure the other speakers tonight will continue to elaborate on the threats we face and the particular needs of immigrant families in San Francisco. I'm happy to take questions at the end.
Thank you, Lena. I would now like to call Masih Fouladi, Executive Director of the California Immigrant Policy Center. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Masih Fouladi. I am the Executive Director of the California Immigrant Policy Center. Thank you for having me here today. I want to first briefly share a little bit about our organization. CIPC's mission is to uphold the humanity of immigrant communities in California by transforming systems to achieve racial, social, and economic justice. Our advocacy campaigns statewide, as well as our capacity building, strategic messaging, and movement building work has led to expansions of Medi-Cal for undocumented individuals, expansions of the California Food Assistance Program for undocumented individuals above 55, as well as driver licenses, state IDs, and many other statewide opportunities. As we were heading to the elections in November, CIPC worked with local organizations in the Bay Area and across the state to hold scenario planning conversations to uplift the concerns of the grassroots communities so that our elected officials, philanthropic partners, and community organizations can better work with one another to ensure that we have a collective response to this federal administration. Today, I'm going to be highlighting some of those statewide themes, threats, and opportunities that have come up, as well as Bay Area findings and recommendations that I'm sure speakers after me will continue to elaborate on. I will also give a brief update on the state special session that is currently happening, as well as anticipated work at the statewide level that many organizations in the room are uplifting. One of the priorities in uplifting the scenario planning and working with over 500 individuals that represented 260 organizations across the state was to, again, increase the knowledge among civic leaders about the threats that are facing immigrant communities. Some of those were just covered by the speaker prior to me. It was also to facilitate a strong and united response to anti-immigrant attacks and to continuously assess capacity and infrastructure to create the connective tissue from the local to the regional to the statewide level. And this is meant to empower us to better partner with local, statewide government officials, as well as to coordinate with philanthropy. What we're hoping in the next few weeks to release is a collective immigrant rights platform that uplifts the needs of immigrant communities across the state, a report that can be shared with you all to inform local initiatives and efforts moving forward, regional capacity analysis, as well as recommendations to funders and lawmakers on how to better support under-resourced areas in each region. Some of the political factors and contexts in play, in addition to the federal threats, have been the potential for state and local budget deficits. Thankfully, we saw in the governor's initial announcement that projections do not show a state deficit at this point in time. Again, those are based off of current economic realities, and we know that that could change depending on what happens nationally. We want to continue to monitor that, and we have seen that many local cities are still facing deficits that they need to kind of acknowledge as they continue to figure out ways to support immigrant communities. We also wanted to make sure that we increase civic engagement amongst grassroots community members, given the low turnout in primaries and general elections. And I think the turnout today speaks to the work that you all are doing and local leaders are doing to do that. We also acknowledge that federal court protections may not be as strong as the last Trump administration, and that's something that, again, we feel that local and national resources can be put towards to make sure that we have a coordinated response. And lastly, we want to ensure that rapid response infrastructure that has faced turnover over the past several years is strengthened. As we were having these conversations around scenario planning, the breakouts were based off of communication strategy, legal defense, policy, and organizing. And we did collective power surveys of each region, including San Francisco, to see how we can be responsive. I'm going to now very quickly highlight the statewide findings as well as some focus on some Bay Area findings. Really, we broke these findings into three sections. One was around strengthening the safety of immigrant communities. The number one fear that was articulated by community groups and grassroots community was mass deportation and detention, as well as the interconnections with state and local law enforcement collusion with ICE, and the dismantling of legal pathways for immigrant populations by the federal government. The second priority that was lifted up was safety from hate, xenophobia, and systemic racism that communities fear, given the rhetoric that we are seeing from the federal government. And finally, under the bucket of strengthening safety, increasing privacy protections for at-risk communities at the local, county, and statewide level. The second priority bucket of area was seeking social economic security for immigrant communities. That means maintaining and expanding access to health and public benefits. A lot of our community members were fearful that their Medi-Cal that they have fought for so long, for over a decade to get, now would be at risk. And we've already heard rumors of folks disenrolling out of fear of repercussions from that. Some of the other things were conditional, including if, for example, Plyler Veto is overturned at the Supreme Court level, what that would mean for undocumented individuals and K-12 education. And finally, just the continued uplifting of access to basic needs, including housing, cash assistance, guaranteed basic income, disaster relief, as we're seeing now in Southern California, the need for that, as well as unemployment benefits and workforce development. Lastly, in solidifying community strength, what was uplifted by grassroots communities was the need to strengthen our CBOs. Many of our CBOs are going to be under attack by this federal administration. We're already seeing the federal government under this new Congress do that, and ways that local cities can work with CBOs on the ground to make sure that we are strengthening funding and capacity is going to go a long way. As I prepare to close with just some Bay Area findings as well as recommendations. In the Bay Area, we really did see under the safety increased immigration enforcement being something that's a threat, the rise in white supremacy and hate crimes, and less community engagement because of fear. Under socioeconomic security, we saw restrictions and cancellations of public benefits and the negative impact of social determinants of health, including education, income, and housing. And lastly, as I mentioned before, attacks on nonprofits. The recommendations that we uplifted as a result of this work is because nonprofits serve immigrant populations and are concerned about organizational security, one concrete step to take is increase organizational cybersecurity and overall protocols around physical security and local efforts to do that. Continue to build up language, access, and infrastructure so that more communities can be served and access programs and services like you all are doing with the amazing interpretation that you have here today. Strengthen rapid response networks both regionally and in coordination across the state. Increasing coordination among the regions by sharing learnings and strategies, even as regions maintain their unique approaches to meeting local community needs, and solidifying partnerships across different sectors of the movement, including labor, faith, LGBTQ+, climate justice, housing, criminal, legal, abortion sectors. And what I'll say in closing is that for lawmakers, what we are asking and calling on is a local and state coordination to protect and defend the historic achievements of the California, such as the expansion of Medi-Cal coverage to undocumented individuals and the expansion of the California Food Assistance Program, championing and supporting additional protections around the California Values Act to make sure that our communities are protected, championing and supporting legislation to protect privacy data at the local and county levels, funding rapid response at the local level, and supporting advocacy to increase funding for legal services. The one good piece of good news I come with is at the statewide level, we are seeing that the governor, the pro tem, and the speaker have come to a agreement potentially on $25 million to go to legal services. At the statewide level, that's broken down into 10 million, 10 million, and 5 million for different programs that are currently running at the statewide level. And so any ways that local cities can complement and supplement that funding would go a long way to make sure that the legal capacity that is really needed to be built up can be built up quickly. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Massey. I'm now going to move to our city agencies, and I would first like to welcome Alicia Cabrera, Deputy City Attorney, and Molly Lee, Chief of Strategic Advocacy at the San Francisco City Attorney's Office. Welcome.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for having us here. I'm accompanied by my colleague, Molly Lee. Our City Attorney, David Chu, could not be here tonight, but he sends his following statement that he asked me to read. We are a nation and a city built by immigrants. Demonizing immigrants who have established families, businesses, and homes here doesn't improve public safety. Blaming immigrants for inflation and economic pressures we all face does nothing to improve our economy. Immigrants are the backbone of our economy. Immigrants, workers feed our nation. The City Attorney's Office fully understands the legitimate fear in many of our communities. These are uncertain times, and it's completely understandable to be worried about the incoming federal administration and what they may do. San Francisco cannot control the actions of the federal immigration officials, and San Francisco cannot prevent them from conducting lawful activities here. But we remain steadfast in our commitment to our immigrant communities and being a sanctuary city. San Francisco sanctuary laws have been on the books for decades. Their purpose is to improve public safety, and we have a track record of having proven so. Targeting immigrants who have built their lives here doesn't improve public safety, it does the opposite. It makes individuals fearful to report crimes or obtain needed health care. It makes children afraid to go to school, the library, or the playground. San Francisco's sanctuary laws do not protect criminals. They simply prioritize using the city's law enforcement resources to fight crime, not break up hardworking families. The evidence is clear. Not only are immigrants less likely to commit crimes, Sanctuary jurisdictions either see no increase in crime or actually have lower crimes. With that, I would like to turn it over to Molly Lee for a brief synopsis of what our office has done to protect our local sanctuary laws.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia, and good evening, commissioners. As you all know, during the first Trump administration, there were a number of actions targeting immigrants. This included an executive order that threatened to withhold federal funding from sanctuary cities like San Francisco. The San Francisco City Attorney's Office challenged this executive order, as well as many other administration actions, and we won. One critical thing to come out of all of this litigation was a court ruling finding that San Francisco's sanctuary city laws comply with federal law. And so as we once again start to hear allegations that sanctuary cities are somehow violating the law, we want to emphasize that we have already litigated this issue and we won. Now, there's often confusion. There's often confusion about what exactly it means to be a sanctuary city. As other speakers have said, San Francisco does not and cannot control the actions of federal immigration officials. What we can do, and what the city has done in its sanctuary laws, is made a decision about how to use our own city funds and our own city resources. And San Francisco's sanctuary laws provide that the city will not participate in federal immigration enforcement, except in very narrow circumstances. So San Francisco police do not participate in immigration raids. And more generally, the city provides city services without regard to immigration status and without collecting information about immigration status. That is because we know that our city is safer and stronger when all residents are comfortable accessing city services. And with that, I will turn it over to Alicia to talk about some of our plans.
While we will be learning of the changes in federal policies, we rely on our city departments and our community members to inform us of the practical implications of the federal changes in policy. We ask that all city departments keep us informed how changes to the federal immigration policies impact operations. We ask that all community members do the same and keep our city departments informed of any changes. The City Attorney's Office is committed and will successfully defend San Francisco City sanctuary laws, and we ask your help and your support in learning of the changes as they're happening on the ground. We are committed to standing up for our communities and have been working to prepare for the incoming administration. Thank you.
Thank you both. I would now like to welcome our public defender, Mano Raju, and I shall leave it to you to introduce your team who are going to speak with us this evening. Welcome.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'd like to thank Jorge Rivas and the rest of the Commission for inviting us here today. It's very inspiring to be here with so many strong community advocates who are here today. There's been some talk already about what we're expecting from the oncoming administration. I know some of it is unclear, but what I can promise to everyone here is that the values of the Public Defender's Office are love, compassion, courage, and excellence. And I can promise that our Public Defender's Office is going to defend our immigrant community with high skill, passion, and in community. And I'm really excited today to have our people here. We have Carolyn Goosen, our local policy director, who helped coordinate this. We have really strong advocates and leaders in the immigrant rights movement, really. Francisco Ugarte, who leads our immigrant defense unit, and Jennifer Friedman here. So I'll turn it over to them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commission. Thank you, Jorge, Elena. This is a beautiful event. I'm getting chills, honestly, because I know a lot of people in this room. We've fought together for many, many years, and we've been successful in our struggle. So I just want to share a little bit of who we are and what we're going to do. First, in the wake of the last election, and we may remember some of the things that President Trump promised, including constructing a wall, and who would pay for that? Mexico. He promised to end sanctuary cities, all those things. We learned that we have power when we come together. Jeff Adachi worked with the San Francisco Board of Supervisors to launch the city's first ever immigration defense unit, housed at the San Francisco Public Defender's Office. And we also doubled investment in nonprofit legal services during that time. The unit was specifically designed to fight back against Trump and mass deportation. And 8 years later, under the direction of Mano Raju, we are stronger than ever. Who are we? We are a defense unit team. We handled over 1,000 matters in 2024, including removal defense cases, appeals, including to the Ninth Circuit, affirmative applications, and Padilla consultations. We have 7 attorneys, 5 support staff, and we stand ready to represent any San Francisco Public Defender client in removal proceedings and any SF resident in immigration detention facing removal proceedings. And our capacity is going to expand. Padilla advice, we also help San Francisco residents to avoid deportation in the event they are arrested, and so they do not unknowingly agree to a plea bargain that will trigger deportation. We also have a youth justice program where we represent all immigrant youth in YGC facing removal and in affirmative immigration cases. We also do post-conviction relief. Our Clean Slate unit vacates old illegal convictions that subject San Francisco residents to immigration consequences. And I am going to turn it over to Jennifer.
Good evening. So we are here this evening to say when we're getting ready for the next Trump administration, what we need are lawyers on the ground ready to take cases and fight for the rights of our San Francisco residents. And deportation defense is public defense, especially considering, as Lena talked about, the way that so many of our immigrant neighbors end up targeted by the federal government as a result of contact with the criminal legal system in light of the arrest to deportation pipeline. And so the Public Defender's Office is providing deportation defense. We are highly skilled at providing high volume representation. We're embedded in the community. We have pre-existing relationships with our clients and their families such that they know to call us when ICE comes knocking. We're already working with our clients on understanding the rights in every defense case, and we're providing wraparound one-stop services to our clients. And we did that all through the first Trump administration. It wasn't easy. People were hurt and families were separated. But the thing that I think that we learned is that we can't give up. We learned that resistance can work and we can win when we fight back. Rights matter and laws matter. And overall, we saw under the first Trump administration a lot of talk and bluster and not as much mass deportation as was touted that there was going to be. Standing up to anti-immigrant rhetoric is absolutely essential. We can't let their rhetoric do the work for them and let people be driven out of our communities by fear. We have to stand up together to counteract that. We have to protect our sanctuary city and stop the criminalizing rhetoric against our immigrant communities. And we have to create a strong network of immigration defenders that helps ensure community health and safety. Collaboration truly is the heart of our success. We learned that when we fight, we can win. A evaluation of our immigration unit's results under the first Trump administration showed that we were able to successfully get 207 clients released during over a 1.5 year period, which amounted to over 50% of the deportation defense cases we took during that time. Our clients were 5 times more likely to win their case than those without representation. Our clients were released on significantly reduced bond amounts. And we also know that our clients are hardworking community members with deep ties to the community. Over 50% have been in the United States for over a decade, and over 50% have a U.S. citizen, spouse, or child. In the interest of time, I'm going to skip over some of the client stories that we wanted to highlight, but we have some of our press successes up on this slide, and I'm going to pass it back to Francisco.
So just finally here, know your rights. A lot of people have been talking about rights, but a lot of people have been talking about mass deportation. What we're not talking about is a panoply of laws and rights that all people have, including the right to procedural due process, the right to make a claim before immigration court. Immigration agents can't simply sweep and deport people without due process of law, and let's say try to end due process of law, but that would be really hard. Non-citizens are entitled to hearing before an immigration judge and pursue their legal status. The majority of people that are deported waive their claims because they don't have access to counsel. And ensuring that every immigrant facing deportation has access to a lawyer and a strong defense is essential to resisting mass deportation. We also have on the PowerPoint, which is accessible publicly, phone numbers, including our number, 415-553-1671, and also the San Francisco Rapid Response Network, which is organized by folks behind me here that are doing absolute, I can't curse, but like amazing work. Thank you, San Francisco. We're working together and we've been very successful. And help us do more. Our office is going to keep showing up. We will keep showing up. We are going to fight and help us ensure no one faces deportation without a lawyer. Work with community, fund community. We need more funding. Thank you.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to have the Public Defender's Office here to know that you've got our backs. At this moment, I would like to welcome District 9 Supervisor Jackie Fielder to say a few words. Welcome, Supervisor.
Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you for organizing this. Thank you to the community for coming out. I very much appreciate you being here. My name is Jackie Fielder. I am the newly elected District 9 Supervisor representing the Mission, Vernal, and Portland neighborhoods. Thank you, Commissioners, for your service to the city's immigrant community, especially during these challenging times. And thank you to OSEA for all the work that you do to coordinate and hold this special hearing. Advocating for immigrants' rights and upholding our sanctuary city protections is a priority for me and my office. And I'm here to partner with you all in this work on behalf of our immigrant community. This issue is personal for me, as my grandparents are Mexican immigrants, and I'm the first Latina woman elected to represent District 9. I was just sworn into office last Wednesday afternoon, and since that time, I have been meeting with our amazing immigration services providers and advocacy organizations, OSEA, and with the mayor's office to elevate all of our concerns over the upcoming federal administration's immigration policies. And you all have my commitment to take action and ensure that our city is honoring our long-held sanctuary and due process ordinance protections for all in our immigrant community. Information is power and preparedness is key. I'm committed to utilizing my office to disseminate accurate and trusted information to the community about their constitutional rights and the resources our city has available to support them, from the Rapid Response Hotline to our network of immigrant legal service providers and outreach workers. I also want to continue to reassure our immigrant community that they have a right to a public education and to accessing city services. And tonight, I'm eager to learn what our city departments and community-based organizations have available as far as resources, and how we are all doing our part to inform and prepare our diverse immigrant community for the upcoming federal administration. Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. And now I would like to welcome some of our community organizations to address the Commission, beginning with sorry, I skipped one. Let me back it up. Let me welcome our, I think the Commission's best friends, Jorge Rivas, Executive Director, and Richard Whipple, Deputy Director from the San Francisco Office of Civic Engagement and Immigrant Affairs of SIA. Sorry for nearly skipping you over.
Thank you very much. I'll just go ahead and get us started. So good evening, commissioners, partners, and community members. My name is Jorge Rivas, and I'm the Director of the Office of Civic Engagement and Immigrant Affairs, OCIA, and a proud partner of this commission. I want to share that I'm here to reaffirm our office's unwavering commitment to serving and uplifting our immigrant communities, especially as we face anticipated changes in federal policies. History has shown us that shifts in federal immigration policy deeply impact and cause harm to our neighbors, colleagues, and loved ones. What we are preparing will disrupt lives, create uncertainty, and amplify fear within our communities. But San Francisco has always been and will continue to be a sanctuary city where immigrants are supported, valued, and celebrated. Before I pass the microphone to OCIA's Deputy Director Whipple, who will be speaking about the office's framework and community-informed priorities, I would like to share that we are actively preparing to meet the challenges ahead. OCIA is working closely with community-based organizations, city departments, regional and state partners. At the same time, I know that preparation is not just about programs and policies. It is about building trust. It is about listening to the voices of those most impacted and ensuring that our immigrant communities feel seen, heard, and supported. And our office will continue building that trust. Thank you again. And now, Deputy Director Rich Whipple.
Thanks, Director Rivas. Good evening, commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to be presenting to you this evening. I'll just go quickly through a couple of the slides about our office. Hopefully you know us very well by now. But as Jorge mentioned, I'm our Deputy Director, and our office's really core mission is to focus on this very important community of our city, our immigrant population. So to share a little bit about our thinking and the work that we've been planning going into 2025 and the community priorities that we've been hearing, just share a few slides with you. So many needs you'll hear directly from community organizations today, highlighting a few of the biggest here on this slide. First, we just heard from our colleagues at the Public Defender's Office the importance of immigration legal defense and representation and the dramatic difference that makes. Additionally, affirmative immigration services are of critical importance, as many folks are here with a certain work permission or status that may lose that status in the incoming federal administration. And also providing economic opportunities for individuals with temporary status is of critical importance. As well, we've heard a lot about Know Your Rights, about the importance of community education, about the importance of power over panic. You'll hear more about that as well later. And then lastly, we're mindful about the impacts that these immigration policies and changes will have on families and on incomes and on households. Having resources and funding and services available to support families and individuals directly impacted by immigration is also of critical importance. A few of the things we've been doing so far as a department in partnership with city agencies and community organizations. Of course, we're tracking closely what's happening on the immigration landscape, as we've just heard from our colleagues at ILRC and CIPC. We convened city department leadership to make sure city leaders and department heads understand the risks, understand the need of the community, and are doing all that they can do to support our immigrant communities in their operations and their service provision. We are having briefings with incoming city leadership with the changes in the board and the mayor's office. We've been producing and supporting with tools and resources for the community, for city agencies, for this commission. And we've also had a series of monthly meetings that we've actually been holding for several years now to support newcomer asylum seekers. We've really pivoted that space to focus more on supporting immigrants generally as we enter 2025. We have another of such meetings tomorrow to continue to discuss and dialogue with community partners and city officials and staff about what the priorities are and how we should make actionable steps to ensure the support of our immigrant residents. And as a department, we're embarking on a plan to better support community and city agencies, as that's our unique purview as a city department. This is some of the ways that we are thinking about a strategic framework of what we should be doing as a department, as well as the city. First and foremost is really city department coordination and alignment. There's a strong need to support city agencies to make sure they're all prepared, informed, aware, and responsive to what we know is coming and to shifting federal policies that will directly impact our immigrant communities. The city is one of the largest employers in the city, and there are tens of thousands of city employees that need to understand the importance of this work. The second point is community education and engagement. This really looks like building trust and empowering immigrant communities in partnership with the nonprofit organizations that do such excellent work. And that looks like lots of public-private partnerships. Advocacy and policy alignment is also of critical importance. We've also heard a lot about advocating for immigrant inclusive policies and protecting local services and benefits and continuing to ensure they're available to immigrant communities. And lastly, it's not lost on us that I think we are in a severe budget situation in the city and county. There's really increased need for creative solutions, for innovations, and for public-private partnerships, and for creative, thoughtful resource planning to make sure we're meeting the needs of the moment. So just flagging a few of those resources and efforts for your knowledge. Some things available now, we have a website that is one of our digital resources for immigrants in San Francisco. That is it's called the San Francisco Immigrant Forum. This is an interagency website that is co-hosted by many city agencies that directly fund and support and serve immigrant residents. And this forum consists of a listserv, a website, and a monthly meeting forum. The website listed here includes a wide range of resources available to all immigrant residents in San Francisco and include a full range of social services you can see here. Additionally, we have a special website that helps connect folks to immigration legal services that are trusted community-based immigration legal services. Many of our trusted legal service providers are here in the room tonight. The website is immigrants.sf.gov. And this is a multilingual referral website to help connect folks to trusted community-based attorneys, consultations, and has information on the city's rapid response hotline and other resources connected to immigration legal needs. Additionally, I just want to run through what we provide already as a department because I think the services that we provide and the programs we fund are of critical importance now and will be pivoting to support the most acute needs. So just as a reminder, the city offers funding for many types of immigration legal services. Our department in general supports a lot of the affirmative work. You see here on this slide that we provide funding for citizenship, DACA, affirmative relief, trans and gender nonconforming defensive asylum services, and immigration fee assistance. That's just one piece of a puzzle that includes a wide range of defensive funding through our partners at the Mayor's Office on Housing and Community Development. I know I talk fast, let me pause for the interpreters, like least favorite presenter, I'm sure. The other thing I'm going to talk about is immigrant economic inclusion. Again, we're mindful that many folks may lose work authorization in the coming years, and focusing on viable ways for people to participate in the economy is of critical importance. Here are examples of programs we operate directly. We have a fellowship, a Dream SF Fellows program that supports immigrant professionals and pairs them with nonprofits that are serving immigrant communities. We are actively supporting and launching immigrant-led and owned worker cooperatives that offer professional services and consulting. And we fund and support several important programs for day laborers and domestic workers here in San Francisco. We've also, in the last few years, launched some important initiatives to support newcomers and asylum seekers, as the last few years have seen a significant surge. This looks like supporting interagency response efforts to prepare for arrivals. It also looks like monthly meetings that we've now pivoted to this larger strategic planning space, and capacity building. So we partnered with our community organizations to provide work permit clinics, to find creative solutions to housing, to offer cultural competency trainings for city agencies, including our Department of Homelessness and Supportive Housing, and many other resources. And then just as an important reminder, we have an amazing community ambassadors program of ambassadors that are multilingual, many of whom are immigrant themselves, who work in high immigrant neighborhoods, who are currently being trained and informed on how to best provide information about immigrant services and rights so that they can be of service out in the streets of our neighborhoods. We also have an incredible language access unit and a body of work around language access to ensure compliance with our language access ordinance, who have coordinated our interpretation services tonight. And so all of the different things we do as a city department really will be pivoting to make sure we're supporting immigrants in the way that we know we need to as a city. I think this commission has an incredible role in this moment in time and an important duty to make sure our city leaders are aware of what's in front of us and what that will require from the city. Here you have our information to stay in touch with us, and of course, you know where to find us in OSEA. So thank you so much, commissioners.
Thank you, Deputy Director Whipple. We are very aware of the amazing work that OSEA does, and we are delighted and honoured to be partners with you in all that you do. Now I will move to community organisations, and thank you for your patience. And I would like to begin with Finn Palomaro, Programme Manager at the San Francisco Immigrant Legal and Education Network, SF-Island. I am going to ask members of the public I know that some of the greatest supporters of all of these organisations are sitting in this room. I will ask you, just in the interest of time, because we have 113 people in the overflow room that also want to participate in this evening. So I'm just going to ask you to please quietly show your appreciation so that our speakers can continue to present and we can keep moving. So Finn, thank you for your patience and welcome.
No worries. Thank you, everybody. I also want to say, hopefully, I can speak slow enough for the interpretation. Though I do this every day, it's still a struggle sometimes. I'm here to present on SF-Island, which stands for the San Francisco Immigrant Legal and Education Network. I'm the coordinator of this network, but the words on this slide and what I will be presenting represents the opinions of the network as a whole. And I've reached out to our outreach workers as well as the attorneys in the network for what I'm about to explain. So I do want to take a second to explain who we are. I know there's a lot of coalitions in the city and a lot of alphabet soup in the nonprofit community. So SF-Island is a network of 11 nonprofit legal and outreach organizations in San Francisco. We're led by Mission Action as the fiscal lead. That's where I work. What makes this unique is that we work with a number of different organizations in different immigrant communities with language capacity, which I'll get into in a moment. This makes us extremely unique since most coalitions center around one specific community group. We've been formed in 2006, and we offer direct legal services, which include representation, form processing, and consultations for immigrants, and also a lot of education presentations, including Know Your Rights. Last year, between the outreach efforts and the direct legal services, we served over 2,000 community members as a network, and we also engage in advocacy. So here's a list of our partner organizations. I'm happy to say that Garesen and CAA will be speaking tonight as well, which is great. For the interest of time, I won't name every single organization, but trust me when I tell you they all do amazing work. This slide is aimed not only at the commissioners, but also at the community members here in the audience, which is when to contact us. So part of the reason why SF-Island exists is for advocacy efforts. We found throughout the years that we're stronger together, and particularly when it comes to advocating for more funding and other things with the city, it has been very useful. For community members, like I said, we offer direct immigration legal services from full representation, form processing, which would be, if you need a new green card or things like that, and consultations. We also provide outreach such as Know Your Rights, and many of our partner organizations actually have their own membership, including MUA, which is Mujeres Unidas y Activas, as well as referrals to other services. So what is our language capacity? We offer services in Spanish, Chinese, Mandarin, and Cantonese, Arabic, and Tagalog. And I've included the email for the entire network up there. If folks want to reach out, especially to request workshops, we've been getting a lot of requests from schools and other community organizations. I would love to see more requests from the city in terms of Know Your Rights work, not only for elected officials, but also folks who may be of different immigrant status working at the city. So lessons learned from the previous administration. It may be obvious based on my age, I was not in the same work during the Trump administration. So this is going from other folks who were around at that time. The first point has already been talked about today, which is power, not panic. It's important to inform folks and empower them rather than invoke panic. I think this is particularly useful to think about as we go into the next couple months, as ICE enforcement may be building up. We do want to encourage folks to go directly through the rapid response hotline, which my colleague Thais will be talking about in a moment, and avoid spreading rumors. There's already been a number of rumors which have begun to circulate, especially social media, which not always the most useful, right? What we expect this administration to frequently change immigration laws. This is something that the attorneys really wanted me to bring up here today. This is something we saw with the last Trump administration. This looks like immigration laws changing even week to week, and sometimes, they're going to put out really aggressive immigration reform, which they know won't pass through the courts, and then will be repealed. But what this does is it makes it extremely difficult for our attorneys to win their cases, and this is why it will be more important than ever for us to be in communication with one another and spreading accurate information whenever possible. Something else to mention, the previous administration radically reduced pathways to legal immigration. Something which I was asked to bring up is that this is going to affect a lot of folks. I think a lot of times when we talk about immigration, it sounds as if we're talking about folks who may not have full documentation, but this is going to affect a lot of people in this city and in this country of various levels of status. Another thing to note is that this administration will likely be different. It seems like they're much more organized, and we should expect the unexpected and remain, nimble in our response. Something else I want to note is that in SF Island, we've noticed that we're stronger together. One of the best things about this network is that we do work across cultural and linguistic boundaries, and that has been our strength. So what are we doing to plan? We've really stepped up our Know Your Rights outreach to community members and organizations, increased direct legal services. A lot of the legal organizations in SF Island have been telling me that there's a huge influx of folks calling them, wanting to get their consultation before the new administration gets in, right? So I know these folks are working around the clock to get this work done, and we'll be continuing to do this work once the new administration takes shape. Collaboration with other networks. Among other things, we're collaborating to organize the We Fight Back March on January 19th, which is this Sunday, so I hope to see everybody there, as well as really stepping up our coalition on the rapid response side. Thais will talk about that in a moment, but we've been organizing at a regional level and hope to grow to a statewide level. I'll pause maybe for interpretation. We're also planning a large-scale legal clinic and community forum, as well as increasing our advocacy and outreach regarding the rapid response network. So how the Immigrant Rights Commission can support. I really want to hit home the fact that these organizations do amazing work, but I've been in this position for almost 2 years. The entire time I've been in this position, attorneys have been telling me they're at capacity. There is like a huge need for more resources in the city. We have so many immigrants in this city. Lots and lots and lots of people need help navigating the really complicated and unjust immigration system. And I just want to make sure that hits home. Another aspect of this is obviously the outreach orgs. Right now, we've been receiving, I would struggle to quantify how many more Know Your Rights presentation requests we've been receiving than before. It's a lot. So, and when we think about this, it's not just, growing, it's also making sure that we can keep the stuff that we have and making sure that we're not burning people into the ground. I think there's a lot of forces that lead folks to burning out of this type of work, and we're trying to prevent that. Something else to mention is to defend the city's sanctuary laws at all costs. And I would also encourage folks, if anything comes up about sanctuary, we have a wonderful coalition in the city called Free SF. And to please go to them with any questions about sanctuary. There's just years of advocacy underneath their belt. And I really encourage folks to, in general, go through our community partners whenever it comes to immigration at the city. Also, on that note, to reach out to SF Island and the Rapid Response Network for information about current immigration enforcement and changes to the community. And also to help us spread information and materials in new spaces. I think a big piece of this is, really making sure that folks are aware of the rights that they do have. It can make a huge difference. Part of the way that immigration enforcement works in this country, along with all law enforcement, is to try and manipulate people into giving up their rights or to self-incriminating. So really the workshops make a huge, huge difference. Something else to note, which I haven't heard spoken about so far today, is to continue to fund community services and basic needs. This is another thing I don't think I can understate. If this city continues to be a place that's difficult for people to have their basic needs met, I don't know how we can, call it a sanctuary, right? Folks need affordable housing and food and all these services that it really is extremely frustrating to come here every spring to advocate for all these community services that continue to be on the chopping block every single year. And it takes a huge strain out of, us doing the work that's already so important. So with that, thank you.
Thank you, Finn. I would now like to welcome Thais Seguera, Coordinator of the Rapid Response Network.
Hi, good evening. I'm Thais Seguera, San Francisco Rapid Response Coordinator, and I'm here today to speak about this really important resource to the community, our 24/7 hotline. So an overview of the Rapid Response Network, who we are. We are a network of community organizations supporting immigrants in San Francisco. There are 7 of us, being Mission Action, the lead for all of them, following by Mujeres Unidas y Activas, MUA, Poder, Asociación Mayab, AROC, FCC, and FIA. What do? We do operate a 24/7 multilingual hotline and respond to ICE raids and detentions, connect the community members to legal representation and resources. How do we do it? So if somebody calls our line, there are 2 types of calls: people wanting to report ICE activity, and they can do that. So they call our line, 24/7 line, we do request additional details, for example, location, photos, or recordings. And we try to verify the activity to provide the community with accurate information. The second type of call that we do have, it's to report a detention. We do conduct an intake with the caller, let them know that the case will be referred to an attorney and forward the case to an on-call attorney. For that, we count with our partners, SFLDC, also a network that has amazing attorneys on call to provide assistance, legal assistance to our community. So this slide is also directed to our community here present tonight. And there are some know your rights that it's important to mention. So ICE and other law enforcement cannot enter any private area of a business without permission, business and also home without permission or warrant signed by a judge. Do not open the door without a signed warrant. You don't have to answer questions or show ID to ICE. Don't sign anything you don't understand. Don't attempt to run away from ICE. Instead, ask, am I free to go or am I being detained? Don't lie or provide false documentation to an ICE officer. What should I do when encountering ICE activities? As a community member, please, we ask to take pictures of or videos of any ICE activity only if it's safe to do so. This helps us verify incidents and provide timely support. And please call us. use the hotline, call our number to report any ICE activity, and visit our website for more resources. Key lessons from the first Trump administration. So in the first Trump administration, in the hotline, we spoke with other people who were able to be dispatchers at that time, and they noticed a significant rise in arrests, particularly in public spaces and workplaces, targeted and collateral arrests. So focused on individuals with deportation orders, but some were arrested collateral to the deportation, and community impact. A lot of fear, rising anxiety in immigrant communities due to increased detainers and fear of deportation. What do we learn from that? So we learned that the rapid response assistance reduced fear and provide immediate support. We also started training and educating to prevent any sort of misinformation. And we also understand the importance of combating rumors and ensuring accurate reporting. And how we're preparing for the new administration, we extended our resources and efforts. So we increased printing of red cards, multilingual Know Your Rights posters, and additional materials like bracelets, key tags, and more. We enhanced training, refresher sessions for hotline responders to ensure up-to-date information. Outreach efforts to school, community groups to spread awareness and provide resources. We started enhanced partnerships with legal and advocacy organizations to ensure effective response and support. Know Your Rights presentations to further promote understanding within the community. And of course, if you'd like to request a presentation, the email is up there. And some public awareness campaigns. So we're creating campaigns to be displayed at BART station on Muni ads to raise awareness of rights and available resources. And how you can support, please spread the word. The hotline needs to be spread among our community members in San Francisco, so share the hotline number and Know Your Rights resources. Stay informed. Also, always visit reliable information, visit our website, and also the SF Island, which my colleague just presented on for updates. And recognize and support the ongoing need for additional support to cover expenses, such as producing new materials and increasing capacity. And remember, power and not fear. Thank you.
Thank you, Thais. You kept good time, Thais, but I'm just going to remind our speakers that you have 3 to 4 minutes for your presentations. And I would now like to invite Millie Atkinson, Director of San Francisco Immigrant Legal Defense Program, Justice and Diversity Center of the Bar Association of San Francisco, and Larissa Dugan-Quadra, Executive Director of Caressen SF, San Francisco Immigrant Legal Defense Collaborative, SFI-LDC. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. Right. My name is Millie Atkinson. I'm an immigration attorney and the legal lead for the San Francisco Immigrant Legal Defense Collaborative. Our goal is to advance due process in San Francisco's immigration court to ensure family unity, economic stability, security, and safety to our community members. So SFI-LDC is a collaborative of 16 nonprofit legal services providers, and what distinguishes us from our friends at SF Island and Rapid Response is that we focus exclusively on removal defense and representation before the immigration court. And a list of our partners are on the slides. So we provide 3 core services. The first and most important is full scope legal representation for detained and non-detained individuals before the immigration court. That means we follow them through the life of their case through appeal at every level. We also provide some limited scope representation through our Attorney of the Day program, which is a friend of court program, which allows for court accompaniment. So people who go to court without an attorney are able to speak to someone on the day of their hearing. And we also provide the attorney on-call response when we are able to confirm an ICE arrest in San Francisco through the Rapid Response Network. In the 10 years we've been doing this work, we've provided full scope representation in court for over 1,900 individuals. We represent individuals from 35 different countries. And when we fight, we win. In 90% of our completed cases, we have stopped deportation of a family, the separation of a family. And that shows the huge difference it makes for someone to go before an immigration judge and a experienced government attorney alone versus with representation and ensuring due process. I also just want to highlight some of the impact that we have besides showing up in court with someone. When someone has legal representation for their immigration case, it leads to economic stability because the only way for them to get work authorization is through the immigration legal system. And so for many of our clients, getting that connection with an attorney is that first step in having them become economically independent and able to care for themselves and their families and rely less on city resources. We also, once someone has lawful status in the United States through an immigration attorney helping them win their court case, it's when they're eligible for public benefits outside of the local city resources. They're eligible for federal benefits and state benefits. We played a huge role in ensuring that immigrants feel safe in reporting crime by helping them understand what their rights are as the victims of crime and the possible immigration benefits there. And we become a gateway for them to the other resources and partnerships that we work with throughout the city. I just want to talk a little bit about the Trump administration. Some of the lessons learned have already been mentioned here, so I don't want to repeat many of them, except to highlight how difficult and quickly the landscape changes for the attorneys on the ground representing individuals in court. That we have monthly roundtables with all of our partners with legal updates, and we have to switch and transition and be flexible and come up with new strategies. We have to advise our clients, telling them this is what's happening today, but I can't promise you that's going to be the law tomorrow. So the amount of time and resources and energy it takes for us to represent each individual changes dramatically. We also lose a lot of transparency with the court and the government officials who are not willing to negotiate, who are not even willing to talk to us about the cases, which is unheard of in any other court in the country. Right now, we're focusing on, the clients that we are currently representing. We have a wait list of over 1,200 San Francisco residents currently facing deportation before the immigration court, and we desperately need to expand our resources, expand our reach, expand the number of attorneys on the ground, and the legal support that it takes to represent those individuals in court. And so our recommendations for the city is to prepare for this by investing in our legal services providers today so that we're ready to respond if there is a mass arrest event in San Francisco, if we're seeing the number of people in court increase significantly, if we're seeing changes from the Trump administration where they want to expand things like expedited removal where people might lose their opportunity to go before a judge. And so we need flexibility in that so that we can pivot and respond in the way that's most effective to support our community legally. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, commissioners and community. My name is Larissa Dugan Cuadra. I'm the executive director of the Central American Resource Center, born of the sanctuary movement in San Francisco. And sadly, 30 plus years later, the drivers of migration from Central America and the globe persist. Now we can add climate change to that, as we can see, and sending our love to our sisters and brothers in LA. I want to zoom out a little bit. One, to remind the audience, especially migrant community here, that we have the power. We got Sanctuary City. We got language access. We got the due process, the no detainer, parent voting initiative, God established this commission. All of that has been the result of organized migrant communities working together. In San Francisco, we move as a school of fish. An attack on one of us is an attack on all of us. With that said, I want to zoom out because I hear the word immigrant a lot tonight. But what we're really talking about is the Bay Area, San Francisco, and the nation. Just to illustrate a little bit of that, in the Bay Area metropolitan area, 1 in 2 children has a foreign-born parent. There's an estimated 500,000 children that have foreign-born parents throughout the Bay Area metropolitan area. When we talk about Sanctuary City, we're talking about public safety for all San Franciscans, not just migrant communities. When we talk about migrants, we're talking about the economy of the city and the region. Just in the San Francisco metro area, $56 billion are earned in immigrant-led households. $4.6 billion are contributed in local and state taxes, and $11.9 billion is contributed in federal taxes. We are part of the economic engine of the city, the region, the state, and the nation. So when we talk about upholding migrant people's rights, we're talking about upholding San Francisco, the Bay Area, the state, and the nation's values of inclusion. And then when we talk about shifting toxic narratives, we must lift the active daily contributions of people who migrate to making our cities, our state, and the nation better. With that said, I also want to highlight and celebrate the work of everyone here, despite the fact that we have not seen an increase to our funding since prior to the pandemic. I want to highlight that we have survived both the first administration, where there was an average of 3 policy changes per week, immigration federal policy, that attorneys were translating on top of representing and responding to the critical needs of their clients. I want to highlight that we survived a pandemic where migrants played an essential role in putting food at our tables and keeping business going in our city, state, and nation. And finally, I want to highlight the role of immigration attorneys, paralegals, social workers who are underpaid in the city, who can barely pay rent, yet are willing to be on the front lines over and over and over to lift our own communities. Because when we talk about migrant communities, we're talking about our communities. So we thank you for this hearing tonight. We urge you to really, really advocate, not just for lifting our values and being at the tip of the arrow, because San Francisco was the first sanctuary city in 1989. After Trump was elected in 2016, more than 400 localities across the country adopted similar policies. So we are moving in the right direction. We are on the right side of her story, and we're ready to unite and defend our values and defend our communities. Thank you for this hearing, and we look forward to our work together.
Thank you, Lorita. Thank you, Millie. We have 2 presenters left, and then we will move to public comment. I would next like to welcome Annie Lee, Managing Director of Policy at Chinese for Affirmative Action, CAA.
Good evening. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Annie Lee, and I'm the Managing Director of Policy at Chinese for Affirmative Action, or CAA. For over 50 years, CAA has served the Chinese and broader AAPI community in San Francisco. I do want to take a step back and talk about and humanize this situation. Why do immigrants come to our amazing city? Why did my parents leave China and come here? And it's to change their lives. It's to improve the lives of their family. And that is why every single one of us is in here. And I think when our city is at its best, we do change people's lives. I know this from my own family's experience. My parents do not speak English, work manual labor, and I graduated from Harvard Law School. But I did that not by myself, but with every teacher in San Francisco that supported me, with the San Francisco Public Library, that was my second home. And so when our city is its best, we can change these lives. And I just want you to remember that you have the power to ensure that we improve the lives of so many people here. Immigration is a top concern for our community, the AAPI community right now. It impacts whether our families are safe, have access to jobs, healthcare, housing. We live in mixed status families. We all know and love people with different legal statuses, and we're all under threat with this second Trump administration. So first, Asian Americans are anxious about how to protect our families and colleagues, and we need education and outreach from trusted sources. CAA has seen an uptick in calls from Chinese community members about how to prepare for Trump, and we anticipate even more clients coming in through our doors after January 20th. We have also received a lot of requests from Chinatown CBOs. They provide direct services to clients, and they have questions about how their clients and staff should respond if ICE or CBP show up at their organizations. CBOs, they want this information. We are going to provide the KYR information as well as CBO best practices and protocols. And we need to empower our CBOs because they are the front lines. They are who community members turn to when there are questions and concerns. And so we have to make sure that they're well supported and well educated. Second, Asian Americans need accurate immigration updates when Trump and his allies unleash a flurry of executive orders and bills. Chinese community members have already expressed a lot of confusion by rumors they have heard about what Trump can and will do. Misinformation in Chinese, Vietnamese, and other Asian languages is rampant, and it has dangerous consequences. So we need timely, accurate, and in-language information about any changes to immigration policies and procedures to get out to communities, immigrant communities in San Francisco. That requires engaging with ethnic media, disseminating information through WeChat, WhatsApp, and the platforms that are really popular among immigrant communities. And lastly, Asian Americans fear that anti-Asian hate will rise again in the second Trump administration, just like it did in the pandemic when Trump spewed anti-Asian rhetoric. Community members must be empowered to report hate acts because there's help available and power in numbers. Reporting a hate incident to California versus Hate lets victims get connected with the professional, trained, and culturally competent communication and trauma-informed services, and get access to legal, financial, mental health, and mediation services. All of this is free, confidential, not affiliated with law enforcement, and available regardless of immigration status. Additionally, there's power in numbers. Often when you're the victim of a hate act, it feels very isolating and you pretty much just move on with your life because, someone called you a slur, you're on your way to work, you're trying to catch the bus, you feel very alone and you're just trying to move on, but there's actually power in numbers. And so when anti-Asian hate happens, I really encourage folks to report to Stop AAPI Hate, because then we can identify the scope and the magnitude of the problem. And that is a necessary first step to advocating for funding and policies that protect our communities. Everyone should know that there are resources to fight anti-Asian hate, including California versus Hate and Stop AAPI Hate. So as the second Trump administration begins, Asian American communities need this city to fund education and outreach so that immigrant communities know how to confront hate acts, they know their rights, and they can receive accurate immigration information, especially in this age of mis and disinformation. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share about the concerns of our community.
Thank you, Annie. And I would like to welcome our final speaker, Zara Belou, Executive Director from the Council on American Islamic Relations, CARE. Welcome, Zara.
Assalamu alaikum. Good evening, members of the San Francisco Immigrant Rights Commission. Thank you to you and to OCA for convening us this evening, and to everyone for being here. I hope you've all had a chance to look around and really appreciate how safe we are. If someone were to come for any of us in this room tonight, I'd like to believe that we would all be there for each other. My name is Zahra Billu, and I represent the Council on American Islamic Relations, or CARE, the nation's largest American Muslim civil rights organization. CARE works to empower American Muslims, defend civil rights through advocacy, legal services, and education. We serve the region's 250,000 American Muslims who call the Bay Area home, noting that approximately 60% of this community is foreign-born. We are your neighbors, educators, healthcare workers, and small business owners. However, our community's journey here has been shaped by both resilience and relentless challenges. The last Trump presidency, the first Trump presidency, is a vivid reminder of this. He campaigned for more than a year on the promise of a Muslim ban. He repeated it over and over again, and as it was struck down in the courts, he issued new versions of it. So much of his campaigning in that first iteration was marked by anti-immigrant and anti-Muslim rhetoric. We saw a surge in anti-Muslim crimes targeting mosques, Islamic schools, individuals, and the like. And during that time, we learned the importance of coalition work. You'll recall the unprecedented number of people who descended on San Francisco International Airport, to fight the Muslim ban, the diverse coalitions that sued Trump and won and continued to win, by the way, against the Biden administration. Know your rights training, direct services, litigation, legislation, and not to be forgotten, collective resilience. I want to lift up two specific victories that we saw in San Francisco that will come to a head again in the second Trump presidency. The first was legislation that was passed specifically to head off the Trump administration's threat of an identity-based registry. San Francisco became one of the first localities in the country to say we will not cooperate. The second is something that the San Francisco Police Officers Association has been foaming at the mouth to undo for years. And that was that in 2017, San Francisco said, in the same way that we will not cooperate with ICE, we will not cooperate with the FBI in the Joint Terrorism Task Force. And so when that agreement lapsed, San Francisco said we will not renew it. But would you believe that the San Francisco Police Officers Association is again advocating that we renew our cooperation with the FBI? To be clear, Trump's FBI. We had those wins and we need to continue to move forward. I should also note that we make no mistake of it in my community. Many of us were not safer under a Democratic president. The litigation that we filed challenging Trump's Muslim ban continued on when Biden took office. He fought us as hard to prevent redress for the victims of that ban as his predecessors in the Trump administration did. So this year we won, but we continue to negotiate with Biden administration attorneys to ensure full protections for people targeted by Trump 1. We also know, of course, that many in my community have been grieving the ongoing genocide in Gaza. In San Francisco, we have Palestinians who are stuck here without an immigration solution and no home to return to. And not far in Clovis, we have US citizens who are stuck in Palestine with no way to return home. And so as much as we are concerned about what is to come, I want to note that much hasn't changed in the last 4 years for the most vulnerable amongst us. As we move forward, we look to the strategies that worked in the first Trump administration and have held our communities since then. Coalition building, advocacy, and direct support to protect our people. I started by saying, look around us, how full and strong and resilient this room is, because we've come a long way since January 2017. From scenario planning to individual representation and litigation capacity, as well as deeper intersectional relationships. I want to assure you and everyone who is here that we are collectively ready. What we need now, though, from the Commission and from those who will take leadership from you, is your moral leadership. We need you to speak up against injustice, to use, let's be clear, your bully pulpit, to champion the rights of all immigrants, and to call out atrocities, whether at home or abroad. We urge this commission to reaffirm San Francisco's commitment to not collaborate with ICE or the FBI, to stand firm in keeping our police department accountable to local standards and never using the baton of fear to compromise our rights, and to continue to legislate protections that will safeguard all of us. Lastly, because my full-time job sometimes feels like fundraising every day, you heard from every single community organization as well as from our civic leaders. Funding frontline organizations will be key so that all of the work that you heard about tonight could continue without interruption, and so that we can continue to grow the pipeline and care for the frontline workers who are tasked not only with caring for their clients, but also for themselves and their families. Everyone that is doing this work requires each other to sustain it and your investment in our communities. Thank you again for your time tonight and for your partnership with all of us in this work. Together, we can ensure that San Francisco remains a sanctuary, not just in name, but in action.
Thank you. I would like to thank all of our speakers who came this evening. Thank you for your expertise, for your time, for your knowledge, for your commitment, for your dedication, and we look forward to working with you in the months and years ahead. Commissioners, I am not going to open to questions because I am anxious to get to public comment, and it is already 7:15. So I ask your patience in not taking questions at this time, and that we will move directly to public comment. In advance of public comment, we have a little bit of housekeeping to do. On my right side, your left, if you can please bear with us as we move some furniture so that we can accommodate those who would like to make public comment before the Commission this evening. And this public comment is public comment to address items that are on the agenda this evening. We are going to ask members of the public who would like to make public comment to please line up on my right, your left, under the television. Our OSEA staff members and our community ambassadors are going to organize you so that you will overflow out into the hallway. Those in our overflow room in room 400, I would ask you to please wait until those in this main room have made their public comment, and then we will facilitate your coming to room 416 to make your public comment. Because of the number of community members that we have present this evening, I didn't do a head count myself in here, but as I said, there are 113 members of the public in the overflow room. I am adjusting public comment to 90 seconds each, 1.5 minutes, not 2, and 3 minutes for those with interpretation. You will hear a bell at 30 seconds. You will hear a bell at 60 seconds. And Vice Chair Chowdhury will raise her hand when you reach your 90 seconds. And I am asking you to please finish as quickly as you possibly can. You will get another 10 seconds and I am going to have to cut you off because I want to give everybody who is here the opportunity to speak before us this evening. I see that we definitely have members of the public for public comment, so I won't ask that question. I'm going to see Rich, are we good, do you think? Okay. A reminder to commissioners are not permitted to respond to any public comment. We are here to listen, we are here to learn, we are here to take the information, and we will bring it back to the Executive Committee meeting to which you are all invited to attend. And so I would like to welcome members of the public to make public comment.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lana Patel. I am the Community Outreach and Project Manager for the Center for Immigrant Protection here in the Castro. And today I stand before you to address a critical issue that impacts our community and the very fabric of our society: the rights and protections of LGBTQ immigrants. As we brace for a second Trump administration, we face an imminent threat to these vulnerable populations. Trump's agenda threatens to dismantle the protections that have been hard-won, targeting families, children, and individuals who seek refuge and safety in our great nation. The Center for Immigrant Protection, based here in the Castro, is at the forefront of fighting for the rights of LGBTQ immigrants. Our mission is to provide legal assistance, advocacy, and community support to those who face discrimination and prosecution. With the proposed policies aiming to expand the Muslim ban, eliminate birthright citizenship, eliminate transgender healthcare access, and strip away vital asylum protections, we anticipate a surge in the need for our services. But we cannot do this alone. We urgently need your support and funding to continue our vital work. Your contributions will help us provide essential legal resources, advocate for policy changes, and ensure that every LGBTQ immigrant feels safe and supported in our community. Together, we can stand against xenophobia and racism, affirming our commitment to human dignity and justice. Today, I ask you to join us in the fight.
It's time.
Oh, it's time. Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Lana, and thank you for working with our time constraints. Good evening.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Michael Pappas, Executive Director of the San Francisco Interfaith Council, a council which this year turned 35. And for that period of time, its 800 communities of faith and religious institutions have been at the forefront of preserving the sanctuary movement and protecting our immigrant populations. Before there was a sanctuary ordinance, there was a sanctuary movement. And that sanctuary movement was founded by people of faith, courageously, to protect asylees. This issue of demonizing sanctuary is criminal in and of itself, because quite honestly, the sanctuary movement is the most humane movement, and normalizing bad speech is something that the community here, the Interfaith Council, will not tolerate. We were here during the first part of the Trump administration, and we stood tall and shoulder to shoulder with the Immigrant Rights Commission and OSEA, and we intend to do that in the next administration. We've already begun to use our network to inform our congregations and our institutions, and we have much more that we will do at your guidance and direction. Thank you for taking the leadership to bring us together tonight.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Olga Miranda. I'm the president of SEIU Local 87. I'm also the highest ranking Chicana in San Francisco in labor from the San Francisco Labor Council. We oversee 150,000 workers all across every private and public sector in San Francisco. To my left is my secretary treasurer of our local, Ying Shanmei. To my right is Abdul Hadwan, originally from Yemen, from China, and Mexico to the right. And so I just want to be able to say that on behalf of labor, we have contract languages built within the contracts we negotiate to also protect workers and the cooperation. I think San Francisco shines at its best when we're confronted with these kinds of challenges, right? We all rise up together. And heroes in San Francisco don't wear capes. It's everybody and the work that everybody does on a daily basis. All of the testimony that we heard today, those are the heroes of every day. And we need to be able to ask this commission to be able to ensure funding, number one. Two, that it's not a niche. This issue is across all boards, all initiatives, all kinds of work, both private and public. And this is the opportunity for us to be able to come together. I want to be able to thank OSEA for this incredible hearing. It's not just been in educational, but also how lucky we are in San Francisco. There is no such thing in Hayward. We were talking about that in Oakland on Saturday. There are no services in many cities up and down the Bay Area, but I want to thank you guys for the incredible work of all of the allies and how San Francisco comes together across all communities. There are no borders amongst us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Olga.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Jen Tran, and I'm the Program Supervisor for the Support for the Elderly Naturalization Program. First of all, the new federal administration's immigration policies create uncertainties and fears, making it harder for immigrants to access services like naturalizations, assistance. Community-based organizations like ours faced increased challenges in reaching and supporting these individuals. This growing anxiety threatens to overwhelm the network of providers working tirelessly every day to serve immigrants' community in the San Francisco. We urge the commissions to ensure that organizations like South Park for the Elderly receive adequate funding and resources needed to maintain our capacity. As a sanctuary city, San Francisco must stand by its commitment to protect and support our immigrant neighbors. We also encourage the Commission to prioritize language access. Many immigrants face language barriers that prevents them from accessing services. Expanding translations, interpretations, and multilingual outreach is essential to ensure everyone can fully participate and thrive in our community. Thank you for the opportunity to share this concern. Together, we can continue to support the vibrant immigrants community that makes San Francisco such a place. Thank you.
Thank you.
移民權益委員會及三藩市各個政府部門人員，大家晚上好。咁我好榮幸參加今日嘅會議啦。咁我係華促會嘅外展員，我個名叫阿怡。我讀晒你先翻。OK。喺特朗普總統個前任政府領導之下，有好多持續嘅創傷同埋埋怨同埋恐懼。特朗普總統執政期間，經常播放咗好多謠言，特別喺疫情期間，總統頻繁咁將啲責任推俾我哋亞裔社區，散播我哋中國病毒嘅謠言啦，導致咗我哋嘅社區同其他少數族裔嘅群體做到更多嘅歧視，感到不安。面對特朗普嘅重新執政，我哋希望三藩市繼續履行保護和支持移民社區嘅承諾。我哋必須要堅持反對針對亞裔美國人嘅仇恨行為。作為個人，我哋唔應該去承受種族主義嘅仇恨同埋行為，責任應該落喺我哋嘅政府身上，要求佢哋去解決同埋防止呢種仇恨。呢個問題需要進行報告，準確咁理解問題同埋真正嘅因素。希望你哋委員會繼續去支持我哋嘅外展工作，支持我哋撥款，支持我哋嘅工作，繼續去支持我哋嘅移民社區。多謝。
Good evening, Immigrant Rights Commission and other city departments. My name is Yi. I am an outreach coordinator from CAA. There was a lot of ongoing trauma and fear under President Trump's previous administration. During President Trump's administration, many rumors were often spread, especially during the pandemic. The president frequently shifted the responsibility to the Asian community and spread rumors of the Chinese virus, which led to more discrimination against our community and other minority groups, which made our immigrant communities feeling uneasy. In the face of Trump's return to power, we hope that San Francisco will continue to fulfill its commitment to protect and support immigrant community. We must stand firm against hateful acts against Asian Americans, which should not be subjected to acts of racist hate. The responsibility should fall on our governments to address and prevent this hate. This issue needs to be reported and to be accurately understood. We hope you will continue to support immigrant communities. Thank you.
Thank you.
移民權益委員會同埋三藩市各部門，大家晚上好。我叫阿如，係華促會嘅外展員。感謝大家今日抽時間討論三藩市移民社區嘅關注話題。喺2017年同埋到2021年，特朗普政府執行期間，許多移民家庭同埋社區成員感到恐慌、恐懼。總統在社交媒體不斷宣傳錯誤嘅信息，特別針對我哋移民社區唔同嘅不真實嘅指控，增加人與人之間嘅爭議同分裂。面對特朗普重新執政，我哋希望三藩市繼續執行保護同埋支持移民社區嘅承諾。三藩市需要準時同埋準確嘅發布移民嘅信息，以之前總統任期間利用錯誤嘅信息同埋錯誤嘅信息，針對我哋移民群體行政命令、法律嘅政策，準確可靠嘅信息需要好好嘅宣傳，包括唔同嘅語言嘅信息，同埋支持我哋當地嘅媒體成立伙伴，確保所有嘅人能獲得正確嘅信息。多謝。
Good evening, Immigrant Rights Commission and other city departments. My name is Yu. Thank you for taking your time tonight to discuss issues concerning to the immigrant community in San Francisco. During President Trump's administration from 2017 to 2021, many immigrant families and community members were fearful. The president continues to spread misinformation on social media, especially false accusations targeting immigrant communities. He increased and created divisions. In the face of Trump's return to office, we hope that San Francisco will continue to fulfill its commitment to protect and support immigrant communities. San Francisco needs to release accurate and timely information to the immigrant communities. Previous Trump administration have been done with false and misleading information, particularly regarding executive orders and legal policies targeting immigrant communities. Accurate and reliable information needs to be distributed well, including providing information in multiple languages and supporting and forming partnership with local community media to ensure that everyone has access to correct information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mango 移民權益委員會及三藩市各政府部門。我叫 Annie， 係華促會嘅外展員。2024年咧，特朗普咧再次成為新嘅總統。我咧同埋移民社區咧好擔心咧就會被歧視同埋偏見。上一屆咧特朗普嘅總統嘅政府咧，經常係利用移民嘅身份咧去煽動社區嘅矛盾，不斷推動反移民嘅政策，包括咧增加個公共負擔、提供入籍費用，同埋批評其他國家嘅政策。作為一個庇護城市咧，三藩市一直保護移民社區，尊重唔同家庭嘅背景，同埋咧支持每位居民嘅生活。我呼籲咧市政府咧繼續撥款支持三藩市嘅移民非牟利機構同埋服務。機構們咧一直都係為需要幫助嘅家庭同埋移民提供嘅直接服務。佢哋咧就懂得各種嘅語言，了解唔同嘅文化，同埋咧能夠好快速準確咁幫助啲家庭解決嘅問題。希望咧你哋能夠好好保護我哋嘅社區人士。Thank you.
Good evening, Immigrant Rights Commission and other city departments. My name is Annie. I am an outreach coordinator from CAA. When Trump is elected as the new president in 2024, my immigrant community and we are worried that we will be targeted by discrimination and prejudice. During his last administration, President Trump often used immigration status to incite conflict in the community, constantly promoted anti-immigration policies, including increasing public charges, raising naturalization fee, and criticizing the policies of other countries. As a sanctuary city, San Francisco has always protected immigrant communities, respected families' diverse backgrounds, and supported the lives of each resident. I call on the city to continue funding to support immigration nonprofit organizations and services in San Francisco. These agencies have been providing direct services to families and immigrants in need. They understand various languages and culture, and they can help these families solve their problem quickly and accurately. We hope you will protect our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Natalie Ortiz. I want to just say, first of all, thank you to all the organizations and everyone here that's doing the work. I am currently working at a family shelter, and I have a lot of immigrant families at my desk crying in fear as to what is going to happen now that the Trump administration is going to be taking over. Every day, from morning to the evening, I'm sitting down with families crying in fear. But not only because of that, but also because the city of San Francisco has reinstated, HSH has reinstated the length of stay policy. And as of February 8th, hundreds of families are going to be back out on the streets. Many who are immigrants. So I just want to say, protect our children, protect our families during this time. This is a very just the worst time, never a good time to put a policy like this, but just the worst time for our immigrant community. And I just want to say, if you have rooms, if anybody over here has rooms, apartments that are willing to rent to families, there are families that are working hard just to try to make it out here. So I really want to let everyone know, as of February 8th, people will be out back in the streets. Immigrants, families will be out in the streets from all over, all backgrounds. They will be back out on the streets. So I just want to let that be known, and we got to do something. We got to advocate for these families. There's no way that we can have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, esteemed members of the Commission and the community. My name is Anton, and I'm an asylee advocate and community leader who has experienced first-hand forced displacement, homelessness, and the challenges immigrants face when arriving in a new country. I stand here to share our community's concerns regarding the Trump administration's plans for mass deportations and to highlight the challenges we face. First, the threat of deportation. We are deeply worried that the administration's actions will primarily target asylum seekers, not just undocumented migrants who are outside the system. Asylum seekers are individuals who follow the legal processes, cooperate with authorities, and are fully documented within ICE and government systems. Unfortunately, this makes them easy targets for deportation. For many of them, deportation would mean returning to life-threatening situations in their home countries. Second, the lengthy waiting periods for obtaining legal paperwork. The wait times for asylum hearings and interviews stretch for years, leaving thousands of people in a state of limbo. I personally waited 2.5 years to have my immigration hearing. This prolonged uncertainty negatively affects their mental health, delays their integration into society, and restricts access to education and employment opportunities. And the third, the lack of support for education and adaptation. There is an urgent need for expanded access to grants and scholarships for higher education, as well as robust adaptation programs to support displaced individuals, asylum seekers, and refugees in rebuilding their lives and integrating into society. And the last, what do we propose? Protect asylum seekers from deportation while their cases are under review, expedite asylum hearings and interviews to provide faster resolutions, increase funding for educational programs and scholarships for immigrants and refugees, and last, develop accessible adaptation programs to help asylum seekers and refugees rebuild their lives and integrate into the community. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Chair, may I ask a question?
I'm afraid not.
I just need identification. This speaker did not identify what community he represents.
We can't ask. But yeah. Sorry, Commissioner.
Good evening, commissioners and community. My name is Elaine Velasper. I'm with the Filipino Community Center. We're also a member of SF Island and SF Rapid Response Network. I'd like to just raise two matters. First is that we are also a part of the Worker Rights Community Collaborative that partners with the city for outreach, education, and labor rights advocacy for primarily immigrant communities, immigrant workers. Our budget was severely slashed, particularly for outreach and education. And I hope that we can partner with the commission for more advocacy for that budget, because as we know now, dissemination of information on labor rights for immigrants is really very important in this upcoming year. The second matter I'd like to bring to your attention is a article that was published on The Guardian on December 5th or 4th, December 5th, 2024, around expanding immigration jails that Biden is doing right now. And specifically, San Francisco is named as one of the cities where detention beds are supposed to be expanded, and that ICE is currently reviewing the bids of companies like the Geo Group, which has been reported, lots of reports around human rights violations in their detention facilities. We don't know too much about it. You know, we'd love to partner and with the commission to learn more about that, and if that's a real threat for us, that will be a big concern if there is plans to expand detention beds or bring immigration detention into the city of San Francisco or even in our surrounding Bay Area. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, mi nombre es Sillari Xochitl Escalante Landa, yo soy de México. Yo he visto desde que llegué a mis 17 años en este país un San Francisco muy diferente al que está ahora. Realmente lo que más me duele es ver cómo mi comunidad está sufriendo abusos, racismo, muchas cosas que yo no miraba en aquel tiempo. Y la economía en este país ha afectado mucho también a mi comunidad en cuestión.
Good evening, my name is Ilaí. I am from Mexico. I've been here in this country for 17 years, and I've noticed that San Francisco has changed a lot in that time. I noticed that crime has increased and it's become economically much more difficult.
Rectifico, desde mis 17 años yo llegué aquí. Sí, tengo 33 años acá.
Rectifying, I came here when I was 17 and I am 33 years old.
Ok, 33 años viviendo en este país, no 33 años.
33 years living in this country.
Sorry. Ok, bueno, a lo que me refiero es de que yo he estado viendo la comunidad, el gran cambio que ha tenido mi comunidad, que ha sufrido todos estos cambios de la política de los republicanos. Me refiero a que siendo personas demócratas y apoyando más a los demócratas, sentimos que tenemos más apoyo en la comunidad.
Some of the changes that I've noticed in this country is the things that my community has been going through, particularly with Republican policies that affect us, that are directed against us. As a Democrat, I know that we have been trying to push forward more support towards immigrants.
Sí, de hecho, Trump ha sido una persona muy drástica, refiriéndose a los latinos, sobre todo diciendo que los mexicanos, y pues realmente no todos los mexicanos son malos, como él dice.
Particularly with Trump, who has been directing his vitriol towards immigrants, Mexicans in particular, but Mexicans are not necessarily like that.
Realmente es muy cruel ver cómo ha afectado a mi comunidad, sobre todo a los mexicanos, todas esas palabras y todos esos hechos de racismo.
It's the cruelty is evident how it has affected my community, the Mexican community, how all those words, especially the racist words, have affected the community.
Es muy cruel ver eso y también cómo ahorita la gente mexicana, latina, tienen mucho miedo, están pavorizados con todo lo que él está diciendo sobre migración.
Especially when we see the Mexican people, the Latin people, how everybody is so afraid with all of the words that Trump is using against our communities.
Yo quisiera pedirle muy en particular aquí a todos ustedes que apoyen completamente a toda la comunidad vulnerable que somos los latinos.
I would like to ask all of you to please support our vulnerable community or Latin community.
En todos los recursos que se pueda, en recursos médicos, recursos legales y de housing.
In every resource that there may be, legal resources, health resources, and housing.
Y les agradezco mucho por ayudar.
And I thank your help very much.
Thank you.
Magandang gabi po. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Silayan Quintanar. I'm a Filipino caseworker with SOMCAN, South of Market Community Action Network. I work in SOMA with low-income families, working-class immigrant families, families that live in SROs, youth, seniors, people with disabilities, the most vulnerable members of our community. I am here today to voice out the issues of our community members, many of whom are worried and afraid for themselves and their loved ones. And many have questions, and they are seeking reliable and accurate information. One of the issues is mass deportation, detention, and raids. They want to ensure that they are safe in their homes, workplaces, and in the streets. Another concern is immigrant tenants' rights. How do we document and report immigrants that are being harassed by their landlords or being threatened by their landlords to be reported to ICE? This is also the same for employers. They are concerned with the eradication of food and health programs for immigrants. Also, access to legal services. We have been working on our own Filipino immigrant resource, and we're doing a lot of translating of materials. We also just participated in Tahanan Natin To, This Is Our Home, which is a statewide forum on Filipino immigrant and migrant justice. So I am here today to ask you to ensure participatory planning to address the challenges ahead with the new administration and to ensure language access and free legal services for all. Lastly, it is important that the city continues to prioritize investments in immigrant communities and funding for CBOs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I work in the restaurant industry, and I'm worried about a lot of people that I work with. And I'm concerned that our sanctuary status has put a mark on our back for the administration. And just everybody putting their head in the sand and just doing the same thing is just getting more attention from the incoming administration, and it's putting us on the chopping block. I say that we should maybe separate a little bit of who's a viable worker, like somebody who's needed in the city, and maybe use the police and the FBI and everybody could actually communicate together to where we would actually know when ICE is coming, and we would know when it's going from when they're going after the criminals and when it starts to go to regular migrant workers. Like, we'll be in contact with them if we're working together. If you're not working together and you're just fighting, then it's going to be like ICE is doing whatever and we don't know what they're doing. So we should know what they're doing. And the only way to do that is by saying, hey, we offer up the criminals, and we should separate criminals and good workers. And there should be some kind of a way of offering that to the new administration where you can say, hey, we are working with the federal government and we'd like to keep our federal money that they're going to cut. And we're not against the government. We want to work with the government and we want to keep our city safe, but we also need our migrant workers for our economy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Danae Maya Herrera, and I'm here as a semi-private citizen. I'm a first-generation immigrant, a mother, and also a birth worker. I work with patients or families that access medical, and I'm working right now as a medical doula provider. I am here because I wanted to know how I can support the population that I work with. But I also realize that it's extremely important that the commission and also the advocates, the lawyers, the nonprofits can bring the outreach, especially the Know Your Rights, at clinics and hospitals, because we know that also there's a lot of discrimination that exists. And I'm extremely worried that new moms, new parents will not be able to access this resource. I'm with the San Francisco Health Plan as a medical doula provider. This is something that has been in the works since 2023. So anyway, I don't want to take up space from my colleague here.
Hi, my name is Melina Leon, and I'm just a concerned citizen. We hear a lot of really good information and resources that are going to be provided for the adults in the family, but we did not hear anything about the children. And they are the most vulnerable people in the families. So I'm wondering, or I would like to bring to your attention, what are the services that will be provided to those children of the parents that may face deportation or that may get arrested? Is CPS going to get involved? Who's going to be protecting them? And what are the resources that can be provided to them? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Jenny Huang. I'm from Chinese Progressive Association. We are a worker center based here in San Francisco, Chinatown, and we have been organizing low-wage immigrant workers for over 50 years. We are part of multiracial worker coalitions like the Workers' Rights Community Collaborative, which my colleague at the Filipino Community Center just mentioned. Our budget was unfortunately just slashed. We know that immigrant workers are now facing a greater risk of exploitation, retaliation, and deportation. Workers with precarious statuses are forced to choose between keeping their job or speaking up for the rights. This must not be the norm for employers to be emboldened to use fear to further exploit workers. Now is the time for San Francisco to step up and to invest resources and defend and support immigrant workers, including stronger workplace protections and collaborating with agencies and communities, organizations to strengthen immigration defense protocols and increasing resources for Know Your Rights outreach and education, because we know that workers' rights is immigrants' rights. Thank you so much to the Immigrant Rights Commission and your leadership for acting so quickly to prep for what's coming ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Adubu Traore, and I'm the Executive Director of the African Advocacy Network. And as I always say, I'm here to remind everybody about the diversity of the immigrant community. If you allow me, I just wanted to read a few words, and I would like each of us to put those words into perspective. First, they came from the Muslims with the Muslim ban. I didn't speak out because I'm not a Muslim. Then they came from the LGBTQ. I didn't speak out because I don't identify as such. Then they came from BIPOC. I didn't say anything because I'm not a BIPOC. Then they speak about immigrants. It doesn't matter how many generations, they claim to be immigrants. I didn't say anything. But then they came for me, and there was no one to speak for me. And I want these words to resonate in each of us and put them into perspective and paraphrase them, the way they want. But we are in this, all of us together. And I'm not going to say it enough. There's no small action. We've seen that, during the vote, we're divided. My people were called dog and cat eaters. It was funny, but I didn't hear the uproar. I did not. And we cannot keep that going. So that's what I'm saying. There's not going to be any small action. We need the commission to call us again and again and again so that, we keep the vibe going. Because, we cannot put down our weapons, we cannot load down our arms, we got to keep fighting. And this is the message I want to share here. My colleagues have said it, they've said it so well, so we're going to be there fighting and we want to count on you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Juana Flores y yo trabajo en Mujeres Unidas y Activas.
Okay, my name is Hannah Flores and I work in Women Unite.
Bueno, yo tengo 35 años en este país, también llegué sin documentos.
I have 35 years in this country and I also arrived without any documents.
Y teniendo mucho miedo, lo cual todavía ahora tengo sueños de que me agarra la migra.
And I've been afraid and I'm still afraid that I'm going to get caught.
¿Qué quiero decir con esto? Yo he sido organizadora comunitaria por muchos años.
What I want to say with this is I've been a community organizer for many years.
Igual que yo, escucho a la comunidad y escucho a las mujeres con esta situación de miedo más en este momento.
And I'm listening to women in my organization, in my community, more with the situation.
Ya, y estas mujeres tienen el mismo miedo. Lo que estoy diciendo es de que necesitamos más apoyo de abogados.
And so these women have a lot of fear. And what I'm saying is we need more support.
Tenemos muchas coaliciones, organizaciones, pero no se dan abasto.
We have lots of coalitions and we don't have enough.
La verdad es de que da mucha tristeza escuchar las historias de deportaciones y no hay quien los represente.
And the truth is, it's really sad to hear all these stories about deportation and nobody to represent them.
Muchas gracias por todo su trabajo y esperamos su gran colaboración.
Thank you for all your work and we wait for your collaboration.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Gabriel Medina. I'm the Executive Director for La Raza Community Resource Center. Thank you so much for having quick action on this hearing tonight. We really appreciate it. We're a member of SFILDC, SF Island, SF Pathways of Citizenship, Immigrant Parent Voting. We also do basic needs and family resources. I want to thank the Public Defender's Office, our representatives from SF Island, SFILDC, CAA, CARE, Rapid Response Network, for coming here. But I want to point out also that some of the folks we really need here as well is the DA's office, the sheriff's office, the mayor's office, the police department. They also should be here and see how much community support and how important this is for our community. You know, I was caretaking for my parents this weekend. 3 of the restaurants closed. The day after Trump's election, over 100 of our families didn't show up for services that week, for basic needs, for appointments. We have extreme need for services and KYRs, affordable housing, SROs, shelters, hospitals, schools. Please make this reality. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you so much for putting together this event at the last minute. My name is Del Medina, and I came here because I had severe anxiety. So I was so glad to hear that you were having this. I'm really proud of San Francisco in this moment. I just wanted to remind you as a private citizen that there is the law and then there's the moral and ethical considerations of the upcoming administration. And I just want to call on your moral imperative to the communities in the city of San Francisco. This was a great presentation, and I just hope that we can continue to do this work together, regardless of immigration status. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Karen. I'm a bilingual reentry case manager in the community with UCSF Citywide. I'm also a DACA recipient standing in solidarity with my immigrant community. The question I'm going to ask has more to do with clients I work directly on a daily basis in the community. So my question to you all and to the police and to everyone who is in charge of public safety, to what extent does or do SF law enforcement have to comply with federal ICE agents when it comes to justice or criminally involved undocumented immigrants in San Francisco? So with that question, I work with clients who come to me on a daily basis and are afraid of ICE agents coming into their transitional housing funded by probation because of this new Trump administration and this new scare. So I guess the question overall is like, what are we going to do to protect our community? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commission. Thank you for being here and holding this meeting today. I want to say my name is Nick Ochapinti. I'm a former school board trustee of the high school district representing Daly City, Pacifica, Brisbane, Broadmoor, and Colma. As you may be aware, we had many ICE arrests and collaboration from our former sheriff with ICE, even at a time when our sanctuary state law was in effect. Through the Truth Act and constant public advocacy, we did reverse that to get the County Board of Supervisors to pass something to stop cooperation with ICE. Since then, as we've seen on a national level, again, we're seeing these issues resurge. And so I want to continue to ask you to advocate and work with our state political officials and obviously our city. But we do share districts overlap our state assembly, our state senate, and a congressman. To my knowledge, given the recent elections, I haven't seen much advocacy on behalf of these issues, not yet, but I will say that San Mateo County is not a model county for advocacy on these issues, but there's a lot of movement on the ground from the youth, from the community, and from many organizations that have advocated to get these things passed at a minimal level. A model for that has been cities like San Francisco, course, Oakland, and other cities across the state. And so at this time, I would encourage your advocacy beyond the city of San Francisco to project that to our state leaders, who of course are guiding national policy as we speak. Thank you again, and good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners, and thank you for having this hearing. I'm Kathy Sakimura, Executive Director of Legal Services for Children, and we serve over 800 children and youth every year, most of whom are unaccompanied minors in this country without their parents. And I just wanted to uplift the unique needs that children and youth who are immigrants have, especially when they're here without their parents. We help them find family members in the country if they have them, or otherwise a safe guardian. They need legal guardianship and an attorney to help them with that. We also provide them with clinical social work services to help them enroll in school, to seek needed medical care, and mental health care to help them deal with the trauma that led them to enter this country without their parents. So thank you so much for holding this hearing and for your attention to their needs and the needs of our communities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening to all the commissioners. My name is Michelle Fonseca, and I'm a mental health clinician at Instituto Familiar de la Raza. And I work through the program La Cultura Cura, which works with youth ages 16 to 24. I take a moment to acknowledge that I wouldn't be in this position without my family immigrating from Nicaragua and fleeing a war in the 1980s. And I'm also here standing representing the dreams of first generation Latinos in San Francisco, in the US, and in many areas. What I'm asking is that we take a chance to focus on the mental health of the youth and their families during this extremely challenging time that will arise. It's also important to take into consideration not only the outside factors, but inside, por dentro. Thank you so much for holding this meeting, and have a good night. And thank you to everyone for being here and advocating.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm here as an undocumented city employee who has been working with and for other undocumented folks for nearly a decade now. During the first administration, I organized to get people out of detention centers. These are the same people who are deemed bad immigrants and paid $2 a day for fighting deadly fires and are then transferred to ICE custody as payback for their efforts. I don't believe in uplifting some immigrants while throwing others under the bus and deporting them to what very likely will be their death. I'm hearing a lot from San Francisco leadership about treading carefully and with fear, so we're not a threat to the federal administration. However, as an undocumented immigrant, I am way past treading carefully. I am way past having any room for fear. And I believe in a San Francisco that should remain strong and bold against a federal administration that seeks to frighten us. I hope you all will push our leadership to remain so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Christina Wong. I'm a Special Assistant to the Superintendent for the San Francisco Unified School District. And I'm here, I'm very grateful that you are holding this special hearing, gathering people who have cared so much about this issue for decades. I can't believe that 8 years ago, when we came together as a community, a lot of the infrastructures and the things that we built together are still here. And that is incredible, from SF Island to the San Francisco Rapid Response Network. One thing I wanted to just share is that we still have newcomer programs for immigrant students at every level, from elementary to secondary. We have all of our school leaders are welcoming and nurturing all of our immigrant students and their families. The challenge is that these students, when they come through our doors, as much as they want to learn, that's not always their #1 priority. They are worried about their housing situation, food security, and oftentimes legal representation. So I urge you, as we work together in collaboration, to think about and maybe also monitoring to ensure that all of our families have the representation and the resources that they need to be able to survive. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. I always like to be the last one. Me gusta ser siempre la última. Soy inmigrante, soy una madre. Puedo venir de muchas organizaciones, pero solo soy una madre.
I'm an immigrant, I'm a mother. I can come from many organizations, but I'm here.
Solo una mamá con hijos ciudadanos americanos, jóvenes, como muchos de nosotros que tenemos.
I'm a mother with children who are US citizens, like many of us.
Mi corazón late súper fuerte y mis manos sudan. Solamente de pensar en la situación que alguno de nosotros podamos ser deportados.
My heart is heavy and my hands sweat just thinking about the possibility that one of us may be deported.
No por nosotros, nuestros hijos.
Not for us, but for our children.
Son ciudadanos americanos.
They are US citizens.
Tienen derechos.
They have rights.
Tenemos el poder.
We have the power.
Y un presidente, una persona, no puede aplastarnos, no debe aplastarnos.
And a resident, a person can't put us down.
Pensemos en el futuro. ¿Qué va a pasar si arrestan familias? Si San Francisco se queda sin trabajadores de hoteles, niñeras, restaurantes.
Let's think about the future. Let's think about San Francisco. If we end up without workers, hotel workers, and babysitters.
Tenemos el gran incendio en Los Ángeles. Es un reto. Y ahora la nueva administración, más reto.
We have the fire in LA, and that's a challenge. And also the new administration, that is also a challenge.
Pensemos un poco en nuestra salud mental y emocional.
Let's think a little bit about our mental health and our emotional health.
Y tener un plan para nuestros hijos, para nuestras comunidades.
Let's have a plan for our children and for our communities.
No dejemos pasar un solo punto. Tenemos que hacer un plan de trabajo para protegernos entre nosotros mismos.
Let's not neglect any point. Let's put a plan together to protect ourselves.
Estoy súper agradecida de tener este espacio, de poder hablar en mi idioma y de poder expresar mi sentimiento.
I am very thankful to have this space and to be able to speak in my language.
Muchas gracias por su gran corazón y su dedicación.
Thank you for your big heart and your dedication.
Thanks a lot for being here. I love it.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who would like to make public comment? Are there any members of the public in the overflow room that would like to make public comment? Okay. Thank you all. Public comment is now closed. On behalf of all of the commissioners, I want to thank you for taking the time, telling your stories, highlighting your concerns, and letting us know what you need us to know so that we can take the information, we can take your truth, and we can look at how we can help our city and county to devise the best possible outcomes and actions during the upcoming administration. I would like to thank everyone who joined us tonight. Thank you for sharing your expertise, your recommendations, and your stories. I would like to give a huge thanks to OSEA staff our interpreters, speakers, and members of the public. I would like to thank Vice Chair Chowdhury for your leadership in organising tonight's hearing. Do you have any remarks that you would like to make, Vice Chair?
Yes, please. Thank you so much, Chair Connelly. This is what we mean when we talk about the spirit of San Francisco. We show up for our values, we show up for our communities, and most importantly, we show up for safeguarding systems that uplift immigrant rights. I'd like to thank our distinguished speakers for sharing their work and for educating all of us on what we can do. There were so many times I had goosebumps. So thank you. I'd also like to thank the members of the public that shared their personal stories and experiences. We need your insights to move forward with power. Last but not the least, I'd like to thank OSEA for all your work and for all your collaboration with different CBOs and with the IRC. And thank you to the commissioners for showing up for our immigrant community tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. And I would also like to invite Director Rivas to share some closing remarks.
Thank you, Chair. As we conclude tonight's important hearing, I want to take a moment to express my deep gratitude to everyone who made this conversation possible. First, to the speakers, your insights, expertise, and experiences have been valuable in helping us understand the critical issues at hand and how we must continue preparing to meet the challenge ahead. To you all commissioners, thank you for your leadership and commitment to advancing immigrant rights in San Francisco. Your work ensures that our city remains a place of safety, opportunity, and justice for all. I also want to recognize the incredible team at OSEA. This hearing would not have been possible without my team and all the staff and support. They have made this meeting accessible to all members of diverse communities. Thank you, OSEA staff. Most importantly, I want to thank the members of the public who shared their stories, concerns, perspectives during public comment. Your voices are at the heart of this work. You remind us of why we do what we do and inspire us to push forward with courage and determination. You remind us, as we prepare for the challenges in the federal landscape, tonight's hearing underscores the power of collaboration and importance of centering the voices of our immigrant communities. Thank you all for the continued partnership and advocacy. Let's keep moving forward together. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Director. Tonight we've heard about what city agencies and community organisations have done to plan and prepare for possible changes to immigration policy. We have heard how quickly that immigration policy can and will change. We've heard what resources are available to community members and what resources are lacking. And we've heard about actions that individuals and families can take. We will take this matter to our executive committee to develop recommendations and follow-up actions from this hearing, and we look forward to continuing to work with all of you on this. We stand by our immigrant communities, and we will continue to work to ensure that San Francisco remains a safe, inclusive, and welcoming city for everyone. Again, I would like to thank everybody who came this evening, and again, I would like to give a particular shout out to our interpreters. This is difficult work, and it's been a long evening for you, and we're very, very grateful. Thank you everyone who joined us tonight and for the amazing work you were doing. Good night. We are adjourned.
Ask questions.